Sit back and enjoy an hour of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. During the Renaissance, Italian cities such as Florence and Venice created financial practices that would later be adopted worldwide. The Florentine florin became the standard gold coin in Europe, and Venice created negotiable public bonds. This allowed banks such as the Medici Bank to finance kings and popes, an innovation at the time. McDonald's is no longer the fast food restaurant with the most locations in the world. It has been surpassed by the Chinese ice cream and bubble tea chain Mrs. Cream and Tea, which, at the beginning of 2025, had more than 46,000 stores, while McDonald's had 43,000, and Starbucks was third with 40,000. The externalis muscle is so rare that fewer than 8% of humans have it. This muscle is considered an anatomical variation since it has no clear function and is not essential for most people. It is believed to be an evolutionary remnant that can sometimes be mistaken for part of the pectoral or abdominal muscles. In a friendly football match between Malta and Slovakia in September of 2014, just as the national anthem of Malta was about to be played, the first seconds of Linkin Park's song Numb played instead. Although it was immediately corrected, the reactions from the crowd and players were noticeable, resulting in a funny moment of confusion. Only 4 countries in the world have national anthems without official lyrics: Spain, Bosnia and Herzegovina, San Marino, and Kosovo. The absence of lyrics in these anthems is due to different reasons, either to avoid conflicts among various ethnic communities or simply because no official lyrics were ever proposed. The farfisa organ is an electronic musical instrument, but not a digital one. It uses oscillators and analog circuits to generate sounds and is polyphonic, allowing multiple notes to be played at once. It has buttons and tabs to switch between different sound types. The popular song Jerk It Out by Caesars uses this instrument in its main riff. The Apollo computer was programmed by a team led by Margaret Hamilton, who coined the term software engineering. The code was written on paper and then literally woven into memory ropes with wires passing through tiny magnetic rings. Each bit represented a 1 when the wire passed through the ring and a 0 when it passed outside. Apple paid $10 million to the band U2 to have exclusive rights to their album Songs of Innocence and subsequently download it automatically to the iTunes libraries and iPods of 500 million people without asking them. The reception was negative. Only 6.7% of the people played the album, and a week later Apple released a tool to delete it. Actor Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million in 1990, dated 5 years later, as a way to manifest his ambitions. This was when he was just becoming known in Hollywood. 5 years later, his salary for the movie Dumb and Dumber was $10 million. Waluigi was not created by Nintendo. He was conceived by a developer from Camelot named Fumihide Aoki, simply so that Wario would have a doubles partner and at the same time serve as Luigi's rival in the game Mario Tennis for the Nintendo 64. Our solar system has a boundary called the heliopause, the region of space where the solar wind is no longer hot enough to repel particle winds from distant stars. It is considered the limit between the solar system and interstellar space. This frontier lies about 7,480,000,000 miles from the Sun. In the year 1233, Pope Gregory IX declared war on cats, mainly black cats, because he considered them accomplices of evil, triggering a ferocious hunt across Europe. This led years later to fewer cats and consequently more rats spreading the plague. The moral: don't mess with cats or a third of the entire population disappears. Cats sleep on average between 12 and 16 hours each night. This amount of sleep is due to their nature as hunters, as they are most active during dawn and dusk. Some cats, especially younger or older ones, may sleep even longer. In the 1950s, the United States Army carried out nuclear weapons tests in an area so close to Las Vegas, Nevada, that the mushroom clouds caused by the detonations could be seen from the windows of some hotels, something that for a time was marketed as a tourist attraction before its dangers became apparent. In the 80s, the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, watched War Games, a movie where a hacker almost starts the World War. He immediately requested a report to know if such a thing was possible in real life. Upon learning that it was, he was so alarmed that he ordered a review of the country's cybersecurity. The result was a massive investment in secure networks, which led to the development of ARPANET, the precursor to the Internet. Yes, thanks to that movie, the Internet as we know it exists. Zambia is the only country that has finished an Olympic Games with a different name than it had when they began. The country was called Northern Rhodesia since 1911, and on October 24, 1964, while the Tokyo 64 Games were still taking place, it became independent and changed its name to Zambia. The word legendary comes from the Latin legendus, meaning that which must be read. In the Middle Ages and before, writing and reading were not common. At that time, the legendarium was a collection of stories about saints and martyrs. But over time, legend came to mean any traditional or mythological tale, and legendary remained as the adjective describing something worthy of that type of narrative. Once, the United States Secret Service carried out a raid against a tabletop role-playing company called Steve Jackson Games because they believed its GRPS Cyberpunk manual was a guide for hackers. In the end, the company received $300,000 3 years later when it was proven that the entire operation had been a mistake. In 1947 in Canada, the price of a chocolate bar was raised from 5 to 8 cents. As a result, about 200 angry children organized a protest in front of a government building, forcing it to suspend activities for an entire day. This event became known as the Chocolate Bar Strike. Numbers are more predictable than they seem. In a database of figures, the number 1 appears first nearly 30% of the time, far more than any other number from 1 to 9. This statistical regularity is often used, for example, to detect if a company's financial reports have been manipulated or to analyze suspicious elections. The Batmobile from the trilogy The Dark Knight is called the Tumbler and was not based on any existing car. It was designed from scratch and was fully functional. It even had a suspension system that allowed it to jump. Several replicas were built and have since been auctioned for millions of dollars. Finland has consistently ranked first in the World Happiness Report from 2018 through 2025. This report measures the well-being of countries based on factors such as quality of life, stability, social support, income, freedom, and trust. Julius Yego, the silver medalist in javelin throw at the Rio 2016 Olympics, said he learned to throw the javelin by watching YouTube videos, since in his country, Kenya, there were no coaches for that discipline. Grizzly bears in the mountainous regions of North America have an unusual eating habit. They can consume up to 88,000 moths per day during summer. These nutrient-rich moths can make up as much as 1/3 of the annual caloric intake of some bears. In 2001, DC Comics invited Stan Lee to redraw his universe in Just Imagine, a 13-issue comic series. He turned Batman into a black millionaire fighter, Flash into a student rescued with hummingbird DNA, and Wonder Woman into an Inca activist. The series was his most surreal excursion outside Marvel. Japan is the country with the largest number of vending machines, with more than 5.5 million installed, which equals approximately 1 machine for every 23 people. In second place is China, with more than 300,000. In that country, the industry is growing at an exponential rate. In 2003, a Boeing 727 took off from Luanda Airport in Angola without authorization, flight plan, or radio contact. It was piloted by an American aviation technician without specific training for that model. To this day, neither the plane nor the pilot has been found. It remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries. The African heron, also known as the black egret, has a fascinating fishing technique called canopy feeding, in which it extends its wings like an umbrella over the water to create shade that attracts small fish and other aquatic creatures seeking shelter. Under that artificial shadow, it can also see its prey more clearly without the sun's glare. There is a 9-hour Netflix documentary about musician Prince, in which 8,000 unpublished songs he wrote and kept in a safe are reviewed. However, it was reported that it will never be available to watch, because the artist's family did not approve its release. It is said that there are hundreds of unreleased music videos and songs. For years, Steven Spielberg told a story about how he managed to enter the film industry. He said he snuck into Universal Studios wearing a suit, sat in an empty office, and pretended that someone had hired him. However, this was not true. He did once enter the studios out of curiosity, but later it was his successful father who arranged a visit that led to his first real opportunity. More than 3,200 years ago in ancient Egypt, there were already official records of workers missing work, complete with excuses. A tablet discovered at the Deir al-Medina archaeological site listed in detail the reasons employees were absent. Among them were stung by a scorpion and severe hangover. As you can see, things have not changed much. Humans nearly went extinct about 900,000 years ago when a population bottleneck reduced the global population to just 10,000 individuals, caused by climate change or competition with other human species. Every one of us today descends from that small group of survivors. This discovery was made by analyzing DNA patterns, which show very low genetic diversity. Space Invaders from 1978 was the first video game to record high scores, encouraging players to beat previous results and leave their names in the machine. This was one of the reasons it became one of the highest-earning games. It is even said to have been so popular that it caused a shortage of 100 yen coins in Japan. When the iconic Plaza Hotel in New York opened in 1907, a night's stay cost $2.50, equivalent to about $64 today. Currently, a room costs over $1,000 per night. This increase reflects not only inflation, but also how the hotel's luxury and exclusivity have grown over time. The Greek philosopher Diogenes lived in a barrel by choice. He rejected social norms and luxury. He believed that virtue consisted of living according to nature, without hypocrisy, and often criticized those who talked about virtue without practicing it. With these principles, he became one of the founders of the Cynic school of philosophy. The mascot of the Little Caesars restaurant has remained virtually unchanged since it first appeared in 1959 at the first location of the pizzeria in the city of Detroit. Scientists wanted to verify that ants knew their way back to their nests because they used a system similar to counting their own steps. So they fitted them with stilts or leg extensions, which made their steps longer. The ants with these attachments overshot their nest by more than 50% of the distance, confirming the theory. In the video game Half-Life 2, Episode 2, there is an achievement that requires players to carry a garden gnome almost the entire way until the moment of a space launch, where the gnome must be placed inside the rocket. This achievement demands such patience that only a very small number of players worldwide have managed to obtain it. When he was 14 years old, Tom Anderson, the founder of the social network MySpace, hacked the security system of Chase Manhattan Bank, causing one of the largest FBI raids ever conducted in California. However, he was not arrested because he was a minor. Years later, he created MySpace, where he appeared as the default friend on every profile. Commerce in the ancient city of Sparta was carried out using iron obols, a type of currency consisting of long and heavy iron bars so impractical that they discouraged the accumulation of significant wealth. This system was designed to prevent greed. However, not long afterward, Sparta adopted regular coinage. The band Fleetwood Mac performed a concert tour in the United States with a fake lineup in 1974, when the original members were in dispute with their manager, Clifford Davis. After a few shows, the press and the public realized the fraud. The term bungee comes from English dialect, where it was used to describe an elastic cord. In 1979, an extreme sports club popularized bungee jumping by leaping from the Clifton Bridge in Bristol, England. This sport has roots in the ancient ritual of land diving in Vanuatu, where men jump from tall platforms with vines tied to their ankles as a test of courage. A man named Anthony Gignac spent more than 30 years posing as a Saudi prince, scamming investors and businessmen. He even obtained a special edition American Express Platinum card with a $200 million credit limit. Authorities began investigating him when a hotel owner noticed he ordered a pork dish despite claiming to be a devout Muslim. He was arrested in 2019. In a survey conducted in the United Kingdom in 2008, 58% of British teenagers believed that Sherlock Holmes was a real historical person, while 23% thought that Winston Churchill was fictional. There is a phenomenon called thunderstorm asthma, where certain rare weather conditions can trigger mass asthma attacks. During storms, pollen fragments into tiny particles which, when inhaled, cause severe symptoms even in people without a history of asthma. Billiards played a key role in the invention of plastic since ivory, which was used to make billiard balls, was too expensive. In the late 19th century, due to the high demand for billiard balls and the elevated cost of ivory, a more affordable alternative was sought, leading to the development of plastic materials such as Bakelite. The opera song in the movie The Fifth Element was composed to be impossible to sing because the combined notes were too difficult to perform. However, when opera singer Inva Mueller recorded it, she managed to sing about 90% of the song, needing only minimal editing, to the composer's surprise. Flowering plants appeared on Earth near the end of the dinosaur era. Paleontologists suggest that some herbivorous dinosaurs may have acted as pollinators or seed dispersers, establishing some of the earliest symbiotic relationships between animals and plants. During World War I, France devised a unique strategy to protect its capital: build a fake Paris outside the real city. This duplicate included replicas of iconic monuments, such as the Arc de Triomphe, and had simulated lights and trains. Its purpose was to trick bombers into attacking it. Construction began but was never completed due to the end of the war, and the project was dismantled. The word corgi comes from Welsh and literally translates as dwarf dog. It is made up of two parts, cor, meaning dwarf, and gi, meaning dog. Despite their small size, corgis are known for their energy and bravery. Alice Munro, a Canadian writer and winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2013, began writing after reading some books in the bookstore she owned with her husband and thinking, "I can write something better than this." She dedicated herself to short stories, a genre undervalued by critics at the time, and ended up revolutionizing it. All the energy stored in the world in the form of oil and gas equals less than 1 week of the solar energy that reaches the planet. Fossil fuels were formed from organic matter that originally captured solar energy through photosynthesis. Therefore, oil and gas are essentially stored solar energy. The son of billionaire Warren Buffett, Peter, received at the age of 19 the only inheritance his father will give him for personal use: $90,000 in Berkshire Hathaway shares. Today, the value of those shares would be $300 million, but he sold them years ago to fund his music career and says he has no regrets. He won a regional Emmy for the music of the series 500 Nations. The Books of Magic is a comic book miniseries written by Neil Gaiman in 1990 that introduces Timothy Hunter, a young boy with the potential to become the most powerful magician in the world. The series presents obvious parallels with Harry Potter, as both protagonists are English teenagers with glasses and an owl as a pet. Both franchises belong to Warner, which is why there are no conflicts between them. Genetic studies have revealed that modern humans carry DNA from unknown human species never identified through fossils. These invisible ancestors are called ghost lineages. We do not know what they looked like or where they lived, but they left their mark on our genome. The Four effect is a common psychological phenomenon where people believe vague and general personality descriptions are uniquely accurate for them. This occurs because our brain looks for patterns and tends to accept positive descriptions as true while ignoring those that do not fit. Radio took 38 years to reach 50 million users. Television took 22 years, the computer 14 years, YouTube 4 years, and Instagram only 1.5 years. A study conducted in 1993 showed that the maximum power a horse can generate is 24.1 horsepower. This confirms that the inventor James Watt, who created the unit of measurement horsepower in the 18th century, was inaccurate when estimating a horse's strength to compare it with the energy of a steam engine. Unlike other animals, the human brain can continue functioning without glucose intake. During prolonged fasting, it uses ketone bodies as fuel, which are byproducts of fat breakdown, allowing movement and cognitive function to continue for weeks without destroying skeletal muscles. This ability helped our ancestors travel long distances to find new food sources. Until 2013, companies appearing on the television show Shark Tank in the United States had to give up 5% of their company or 2% of their revenue just for participating, even if no investor chose them. This changed when Mark Cuban, one of the show's hosts, issued an ultimatum, saying he would leave the show unless that clause was removed. The creator of the series Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan, offered the show to different production studios before it finally landed at AMC. For example, TNT executives were enthusiastic but ultimately did not commit. FX bought the rights in 2005 but decided not to film it, and HBO rejected it outright and surely regrets it now. The president of Finland, who ended his term in 2024, Sauli Niinisto, was in Thailand with his son during the tsunami of 2004. They survived by climbing onto a utility pole. A company called Creative Home Engineering specializes in building steel doors that lead to secret rooms. They have designs such as a bookshelf that splits in half, a fake electrical panel, or a sliding fireplace. They also create creative unlocking methods, such as pulling a bottle-shaped lever or making a specific move on a chessboard. Country singer Dolly Parton was one of the producers of the series Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but this was kept secret, as her name did not appear in the credits. She even mentioned that she used to send gifts to the cast every year, even though she did not know them personally. According to director Edgar Wright, the movie Baby Driver is based on the music video for Mint Royal's Blue Song, which he also directed, in which a driver listens to music while waiting for his friends who are executing a heist and then they escape. The film is the same concept but expanded. The first street illuminated with incandescent lamps was Mosley Street in Newcastle, United Kingdom, in 1879. Thanks to Joseph Swan's invention, this technological advancement quickly spread to other cities. In 1880, London and Paris also began installing similar streetlights. Most Muppets are left-handed, unlike humans, of whom only 10% are left-handed. There is a specific reason for this. Puppeteers usually use their right hand to control the character's mouth and their left hand to move one of the puppet's hands. Therefore, the left hand is the one that moves more frequently. There are only about 25 airships or zeppelins still operational worldwide. In the early 20th century, they were one of the most popular means of air transport, but their impracticality and high operating costs led to their decline. The few that remain are used for advertising or tourist attractions. The film Clue by Paramount, released in 1985 and based on the popular board game, has 3 different endings which were randomly sent to different theaters, so your experience may have differed from other people's. This marketing trick has not been used again in a popular film, only in some streaming platform experiments. By the way, a remake of the film is already underway. A hidden Easter egg in the Sega Saturn game Astral was discovered 26 years after its release. It was a file containing an image of Mario with a very odd expression hidden within the game's data. The title was released when the rivalry between Sega and Nintendo was at its peak in the 1990s. The scene in the movie Birdman, where Michael Keaton walks through Times Square and people react, was filmed spontaneously with real people, since the production could not afford to close the streets or hire extras. The paper clip as we know it today originated in 1899 when William Middlebrook patented the machine to manufacture clips with the gem design. However, the invention is also attributed to others, such as the Norwegian Johan Voller, whose version had a slightly more square shape. Before clips, papers were joined by sewing them with thread or fastening them with wire. In 1920, Thomas Edison declared that he was building a device similar to a telephone but to talk with spirits or ghosts. However, he never mentioned it again, and it is unknown if prototypes or tests were carried out. The Pokémon Gold and Silver games were originally meant to be the last in the franchise, which is why they included battles against the gym leaders from the original game and, at the end, against the previous protagonist as a conclusion to the story. However, since they were a huge success, the creators decided to continue and release Pokémon Crystal. Not all stars are burning balls of fire. Some are so cold that, in theory, you could touch them without vaporizing. The so-called brown dwarfs can have surface temperatures of only 77 degrees Fahrenheit, similar to a cup of coffee. They are so faint that they are sometimes not even considered stars, but failed stars, and they remain a cosmic mystery. Cows have an extremely wide field of vision that allows them to see nearly 360 degrees around them. This is due to the position of their eyes, which are located on the sides of their heads. Although they cannot see directly behind them, their peripheral vision is so extensive that they can detect movement across almost their entire surroundings without moving their heads. A restaurant in New York City called Industry Kitchen holds the Guinness record for offering the world's most expensive pizza, $2,700. The pizza, which must be ordered 2 days in advance, is topped with 24-karat gold leaves, blue cheese, and French truffle. And if you want to add caviar, it costs $200 more. Romantic chess was a predominant style of play before the 20th century in which players valued creativity and artistic expression over deep strategy or long-term planning. This approach emphasized risky attacks and spectacular tactical combinations, resulting in exciting and surprising matches. This style was gradually replaced by a more technical and calculated approach. Actress Margot Robbie was such a big fan of the Harry Potter books as a teenager that she once lied to her optometrist during an eye exam so she could wear glasses and look more like Harry, her favorite character. The original patent for the fire hydrant was lost in a fire, which is rather ironic. The inventor, George Smith, had registered it, but the complete file was destroyed in the fire at the United States Patent Office in 1836. Despite this mishap, Smith is recognized as the inventor of the first hydrant, although others also contributed to the development of the modern design. The paddle shifters mounted behind the steering wheel, so common today in sports and luxury cars, were born in Formula One. The first single-seater to use them was the Ferrari 640 in 1989. This innovation allowed faster gear changes without removing hands from the wheel, improving control. The first road car to implement them was the Ferrari F355 in 1997. Among the strange purchases actor Nicolas Cage has made at some point are a private island in the Bahamas, a haunted mansion in New Orleans, the #1 Superman comic book, a crocodile and a shark, a collection of shrunken pygmy heads, a dinosaur fossil, and a pyramid-shaped tomb. When digitally building the Gotham City set for the Lego Batman movie, the animators paid close attention to detail, adding alleys, all types of buildings, and other features from the comic version of the city. It was so large that, if built with real Lego bricks, it would have measured nearly 1,970 feet. The smallest Costco store in the world is in Juneau, Alaska. It measures 76,765 square feet, half the size of the average of the other locations, while the largest one is in Salt Lake City, Utah, and measures 235,900 square feet. In just 30 seconds, the human brain can generate as much information as everything the Hubble Space Telescope has collected since it became operational. This means billions of electrical signals, connections, and simultaneous patterns. But just as it creates information, it also erases what is unnecessary, which is why sometimes you do not remember what you had for breakfast today. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the longest-lived goldfish was Tish, a pet fish that reached the age of 43. If they are well cared for, such as not being kept in very small tanks, these fish can live 10 to 15 years normally. In the 18th century, a carpenter named John Harrison revolutionized navigation when he invented a marine chronometer capable of measuring longitude. It worked by keeping Greenwich time accurately during long sea voyages. Sailors compared that time with the local noon determined by the sun's position, allowing them to calculate their longitude, something that had been extremely difficult until then. The leaders of the Netherlands, United Kingdom, France, and Italy were among those opposing the reunification of Germany in 1989. The Prime Minister of Italy even declared that he loved Germany so much that he was glad there were two and not one, but in the end, as we know, they did reunify. In a scene from the movie Blade, Trinity, actor Wesley Snipes, who played Blade, refused to open his eyes when his character was supposed to wake up because he was having conflicts with the director. As a result, digital animation had to be added for his eyes, which is very noticeable in the film. The 1957 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham came with a built-in minibar in the front dashboard. It included glasses, a shaker, and even liquor bottles. The glasses stayed in place thanks to magnets. Other models, such as Rolls-Royce or custom limousines, also offered this feature, but only for the rear seats. According to the Study Basic Color Terms from 1969, all languages develop color terms in a predictable sequence. First black and white appear, followed invariably by red. The blue-green distinction is less common. Many cultures use a single word for both, while terms for purple, pink, and gray are the last to emerge. Only the most linguistically advanced languages possess them. 14 years before the sinking of the Titanic, writer Morgan Robertson published the novel The Wreck of the Titan, in which an ocean liner called Titan, lacking enough lifeboats, strikes an iceberg in the North Atlantic. Too similar to what later happened to the Titanic. After 1912, the work gained popularity as an accidental prophecy. Although it was discovered in 1974, the mausoleum of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, remains unopened. It is believed that inside lies a vast underground palace with rivers of mercury and deadly traps. Archaeologists have chosen not to disturb it out of respect and due to a lack of proper technology. This site is famous for the terracotta warriors outside, which symbolically protect the emperor. In Italy, Parmesan cheese, known as Parmigiano Reggiano, is so valuable that some banks accept it as collateral for loans. The cheese wheels are stored in vaults guarded like gold bars, and their authenticity is protected with edible microchips. Pill bugs, also known as woodlice, have the ability to digest toxic heavy metals. These land-dwelling crustaceans accumulate elements such as lead, cadmium, and arsenic and crystallize them into inert structures called granules. This ability allows them to survive in polluted soils where other animals could not. At Sacsayhuaman, an ancient Inca fortress in Cusco, Peru, the walls are made of stone blocks weighing up to 265,000 pounds. These stones were cut and fitted with such precision that you cannot slip even a sheet of paper between them. This technique has allowed the structure to withstand natural disasters for centuries. The band Smash Mouth wrote the song All Star as a response to all the letters they received from fans who were bullied at school or by their siblings for liking the band. Later, the song became world famous after being featured in the soundtrack of Shrek. When Albert Einstein divorced his first wife, he could not afford the alimony she demanded, so he offered her an unusual deal. If he ever won the Nobel Prize, he would give her all the prize money. She agreed, and in 1922, when Einstein won, he kept his promise. It was 121,572 Swedish crowns, enough to buy a property in Zurich. Musician Alice Cooper was once a babysitter for Keanu Reeves when the John Wick and Matrix actor was a child. This happened in Canada, where Keanu's mother, a costume designer, had connections with celebrities and rock stars like Alice Cooper himself. In some places it rains a reddish color, a phenomenon called blood rain. It occurs when sand particles become concentrated and mix with rain in the clouds. These particles come from air currents from deserts. It happens in countries near the Sahara Desert, but also in Asia and in the Middle East. Switzerland stands out for its high recycling rates, reaching between 66 and 96% of recyclable material recovery. This achievement is due to policies such as the mandatory use of official bags for garbage collection, which encourages recycling. According to official government data, 49% of the United States population eats at least one sandwich every day, which amounts to around 170 million sandwiches daily. To collect more taxes, the Chinese government implemented a scratch-off lottery in 1998 on official purchase receipts, giving each ticket a potential prize. This encouraged customers to request receipts, preventing businesses from hiding sales. The measure was a success. According to one theory, humans are instinctively attracted to shiny objects because in ancient times, finding water was essential for survival. The sun reflects off water, creating bright flashes. In 1989, around 2 million people joined hands forming a human chain spanning 373 miles, crossing 3 different countries: Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. It was part of a protest against forced inclusion in the Soviet Union. The 3 countries regained independence in 1991. George Koval was a Soviet spy who infiltrated the Manhattan Project, gained access to secret laboratories, and stole crucial information about nuclear weapons. His work allowed the Soviet Union to develop its atomic bomb much earlier than expected. Incredibly, his identity as a spy was not discovered until 2002, decades after he had changed the global nuclear balance. Inventor Otto Friedrich Roeder took 16 years to perfect the first bread slicing machine. His prototype from 1912 was destroyed in a fire, and he did not manage to sell one until 1928, but it was worth it because within just 5 years, 80% of bread in the United States was sold pre-sliced. Among the 4 kings in a deck of cards, the King of Hearts is the only one without a mustache. This distinction is due to a 15th century printing error. Originally, all kings had mustaches, but an engraver mistakenly made the mold for the King of Hearts without one, and the design was adopted in later versions, lasting to this day. Archaeologists can tell which skeletons belong to archers because the years of training and the tension of ancient war bows caused their bones to deform to compensate for muscle growth in the arms and shoulders. Dogs bark much more than wolves because, during domestication, humans favored those that used barking as a form of short-range, infant-like communication, unlike wolves, which rely more on long-distance howls. Technology companies have used New Zealand as a testing ground to launch products because it is a remote place where they can observe people's behavior without too much global impact. For example, it was one of the first 3 countries where the Pokemon Go app was released. Composer John Williams has been nominated for the Academy Awards 54 times, making him the living person with the most nominations in the history of these awards, second only to Walt Disney, who received 59 nominations. Out of all of these, Williams has won 5. The last one was in 1993 for the soundtrack of Schindler's List. The Porsche 911 car was not originally going to be called that. Its planned name was 901, but Peugeot had trademarked all 3-digit names with a 0 in the middle, as it did with its cars. Porsche had to change the name to 911 at the last minute. Before launching her own music career, singer FKA Twigs appeared as a backup dancer in several music videos, such as Jessie J's Price Tag. Once, a French cavalry squad captured a fleet of Dutch ships. This happened in 1795 during the French Revolutionary Wars because the sea where the ships were located had frozen, allowing the horses to approach and seize the trapped vessels. John Lennon signed the document officially dissolving the Beatles at Disney World, specifically at the Polynesian Village, while on vacation in 1974. A few days earlier, the other 3 band members had gathered to sign, but Lennon did not or could not attend. The 4 never met again in one place. The plastic or metal tip at the end of shoelaces is called an aglet. The term comes from the Latin word ferrum, meaning iron, combined with the diminutive suffix et. Aglets make it easier to thread laces through eyelets and prevent them from fraying. One of the rarest model kits from the Tamiya brand is the Mookie House, a styrofoam house model released more than 50 years ago during the company's transition from wooden to plastic models. Although it was a commercial failure at the time, it is now one of the most valuable collector's items for fans of the brand and is displayed in a museum. Before becoming famous for the television series Friends, actress Courtney Cox appeared in Bruce Springsteen's music video Dancing in the Dark, where she was invited on stage to dance with the singer. Later, Alfonso Ribeiro, who played Carlton in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, said he was inspired by that video to create his iconic dance. On the island of Yap in Micronesia, large limestone discs called rai were used as currency. Some weighed up to 8,800 pounds and were so difficult to move that they stayed in place. Ownership was transferred through public verbal agreements without physically moving the stone. Even a rai that sank in the sea continued to be valid as currency thanks to communal consensus. During the famous scene in which Gene Kelly dances in the rain in the movie Singin' in the Rain, The actor had a fever of more than 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Although the director advised him to go home, Kelly insisted on filming. Water machines were used on set to create the rain effect. Pilot Jean Boulette set the altitude record for helicopters in 1972, reaching 40,260 feet. When he tried to descend, the engines failed, and he had to glide down and land without power, also earning the record for the highest emergency landing ever made by a helicopter. In the movie Aladdin, there is a small detail that appears for only a few seconds. When the Sultan is stacking toy animals into a tower, the camera pans out and a toy of the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, released a year earlier, can be seen. Pandaviruses are a genus of giant viruses that infect amoebae. They have a genome much larger than that of any other known type of virus, and 90% of their genes have no known equivalent, leading to speculation that they may belong to an unknown branch of the tree of life. They have been found in the permanently frozen layer of Antarctica. Frida Kahlo painted 55 self-portraits, many of which have reached record prices at auctions. In 2021, her artwork Diego and I sold for $34.9 million, setting a record for a Latin American artist. In 2011, a streaming platform called Sediva bought DVDs on their release day and streamed them online for people to watch. According to its founder, there were no copyright issues because users were technically renting the DVD while it was streamed from the company's server. But Hollywood disagreed, sued them, and the platform shut down a year later. The Disney movie Treasure Planet was the first to use an innovative animation technique called Deep Canvas, which combined traditional two-dimensional animation with computer-generated three-dimensional environments. Despite its innovation, it was considered a financial failure, earning only $109 million after having a budget of around $140 million. The belief that goldfish remember only for a few seconds and then their memory resets is totally false. Studies have shown they can have long-term memory. They can learn routines and tricks like responding to light signals and going through hoops, demonstrating advanced cognitive abilities. Due to low audience interest, the 2025 movie Snow White is expected to lose approximately $115 million, even after accounting for digital sales and streaming rights. Its total production and promotion costs reached $410 million, making it one of the most expensive movies ever made. In 1966, a boy brought 3 giant African snails to Florida and later released them into a garden. This caused a population explosion of the species. After 7 years, there were more than 18,000 snails. Because they transmit diseases and are considered invasive species, authorities launched control efforts that took over 10 years and cost $1 million. They reappeared in recent years, the last time in 2023. The Helios 1 and 2 probes, launched in the 1970s, still hold the record as the fastest spacecraft ever built relative to the Sun, reaching speeds of up to 157,000 miles per hour. Although they no longer function, these probes continue to orbit the star of our solar system. Pop star Sabrina Carpenter is the direct niece of Nancy Cartwright, the voice actress who has voiced Bart Simpson since 1989. This was revealed in 2024 in a video by Cartwright herself. That means Bart Simpson is Sabrina Carpenter's cousin. The Sun loses about 4,400,000 tons of mass every second due to nuclear fusion. In this process, it converts hydrogen into helium and releases energy as light and heat. It does not regain that mass, it simply transforms it into energy, which will eventually run out. The character Venom was not created by Marvel, but by a fan named Randy Schuler, who, in 1982, sent a letter to Marvel proposing a new black suit for Spider-Man with special abilities. Later, writers added the idea of it being an alien symbiote and decided to buy the concept from Randy for the grand sum of $220. Green LED lights can attract more fish. They are mainly used by small-scale fishermen. Additionally, they help prevent turtles from getting trapped in nets by up to 64%. Due to empty lots and massive evictions caused by the economic troubles of Detroit in recent years, a rather unusual effect occurred. Hundreds of ring-necked pheasants occupied large parts of the city, inspiring urban art, birdwatching groups, and a proposal to make it the official bird of the place. Opera singers and other vocalists with exceptionally strong voices are able to adapt the shape of their throats to match that of the human ear canal. This allows them to produce a sound that perfectly aligns with how our ears perceive it. This phenomenon is known as the singing formant and consists of amplifying certain vocal frequencies, allowing the sound to project with great clarity and resonance even over long distances. The iconic Betty Boop was inspired by singer Helen Kane, famous in the 1920s for her childish voice and personality. Kane sued the Fleischer Studios for plagiarism in 1932, claiming they copied her image and style, but she lost the case when witnesses showed that her style had already been seen in other performers before her. About 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Caligula, known for his eccentricities, appointed his horse Incitatus as consul of Rome. It is said that he even built a palace for him and provided a team of servants. This act was probably a satire to mock the Roman Senate rather than a sign of madness. There exists a group that instead of musical instruments uses typewriters. The Boston Typewriter Orchestra was born in 2004. They mix percussion, satire, and office fashion in their concerts. After 20 years, they are still touring. The architectural jewel of the Inca Empire, Machu Picchu, had been built for less than 50 years when Christopher Columbus made contact with the American continent in 1492, making it more recent than it seems. In the movie Final Fantasy VII, Advent Children, the phone used by Cloud is a Panasonic P900, which was released along with the movie in Japan as part of a promotional campaign and included a special Final Fantasy game exclusive to that phone. Actor Bob Odenkirk, known for his role as lawyer Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad, discovered on a television program that his family tree connects him as an 11th cousin of King Charles III of the United Kingdom, news he took with humor, though he stressed that he is not in favor of monarchies and prefers democracy. In the television series The Office, the company's Office Max and Staples are presented as direct rivals of the fictional company Dunder Mifflin, which specializes in selling paper and office supplies. Interestingly, like Dunder Mifflin, both real companies struggled to stay afloat in real life. Staples was acquired in 2017 by the firm Sycamore Partners, and Office Max was purchased by Office Depot in 2013. The Lamborghini car company originally began by making tractors, and they still manufacture them today. Some of their current models, such as the Spire BRT, include cutting-edge technology like continuously variable transmissions, low-consumption engines, GPS, and high-precision hydraulic systems. In 1168, the Vizier Shah ordered the burning of Fustat, then Egypt's capital, to prevent it from falling into the hands of crusaders led by Amalric I of Jerusalem. The fire lasted 54 days, reducing the city to ashes. This act marked the end of Fustat as a political center, being absorbed by Cairo. It has been observed that some crocodiles use ocean waves to travel faster over several miles, taking advantage of currents that help them reach new habitats where more food may be available. So, it could be said that crocodiles enjoy surfing. Millions of years ago, there were aquatic sloths that fed on sea algae from the ocean floor. To dive deeper each time, the species evolved thicker bones. Pareidolia is a psychological phenomenon in which the brain detects familiar patterns, such as faces, where none actually exist. From a few lines to more complex shapes, these can evoke different emotions. It is believed to be an evolutionary trait that remained because it was useful for survival, allowing humans to detect possible nearby threats. Construction of the Empire State Building in New York, with 102 floors, began in 1930 and was completed in record time, just 1 year and 45 days. More than 3,500 construction workers worked simultaneously at its peak. When completed, it was the tallest building in the world, a record it held until 1970. The wood frog can survive frozen for up to 6 months thanks to a process called cryoprotection. During winter, its metabolism stops and it accumulates glucose in its tissues to prevent damage. When spring arrives, it thaws and resumes activity without any negative effects. Due to its density, Saturn is the only planet in the solar system that could float in water. Even though it is the second largest planet, it also has the least mass. There is an episode of the Powerpuff Girls where they sing the entire time in a psychedelic rock opera style. It was banned in the United States and other countries because of a segment with strobe lights and supposed subliminal or ideological messages, such as parts resembling crucifixes in the destroyed buildings or references to communism, although the real reason for the ban was never officially stated. The iconic hairstyle of Princess Leia in Star Wars was inspired by the Mexican Revolution. George Lucas based it on female fighters, such as Clara de la Rocha, a gorilla known for her double-coiled braids. The name of the canned meat product Spam originated in a contest. It was in 1936 when the founder's brother-in-law won $100 by coming up with the word Spam, which ended up being chosen. It is believed to come from the abbreviation of spiced ham. Decades later, in the Monty Python sketches, they repeated the word so much that it inspired the term for junk mail. The tallest statue in the world is the Statue of Unity in Gujarat, India, with a height of 597 feet. This monument, inaugurated in 2018, pays tribute to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, a key figure in India's independence and unification. To put it in perspective, its height is twice that of the Statue of Liberty and 4 times that of Christ the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro. Scrappy-Doo, Scooby's nephew, was introduced in 1979 to revitalize the franchise, which was starting to lose audience. Although he initially helped regain popularity, many fans now consider him one of the most disliked characters in the Hanna-Barbera universe. Since 1988, he has only appeared in ironic ways, such as being the villain in the HBO series Velma. The involuntary twitch or jerk people sometimes feel just before falling asleep, as if they were falling into a void, is called a hypnic jerk or sleep myoclonus. It affects many people and is completely normal. It is believed to be the brain checking that the body is still alive as it relaxes. In a soccer match between Denmark and Iran in 2003, an Iranian player picked up the ball with his hands, thinking the first half had ended after hearing a sound coming from the stands. The referee called a penalty, but player Morten Weghorst intentionally missed the shot because it had been a misunderstanding. Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario in the Mario Brothers games, played the wise dragon Paarthurnax in the game The Elder Scrolls, Skyrim. His voice pitch was digitally lowered to sound colossal. The Klein bottle is a shape that has neither an inside nor an outside, as it has only one surface and one edge, and it can exist only in 4-dimensional space. In the television series Futurama, there is a beer called Klein that is sold in bottles of the shape. Samoyed dogs are among the most expensive breeds to maintain. Due to their double coat, they require frequent professional grooming that can cost up to $100. They are also prone to health problems, and veterinary expenses can reach up to $5,000 per year. In addition, they need special conditioners, premium diets, and air conditioning in warm environments. In 1960, Richard James, inventor of the Slinky, left his wife Betty and their 6 children to join a religious group in Bolivia. Betty took over the company, rescued it from bankruptcy, and turned it into a success. In 2001, she was inducted into the Toy Industry Hall of Fame for her leadership and business vision. The refined British accent we associate with England today originated among London's elite around the time of the American Revolution in the 18th century. Before that, Britons and American colonists spoke very similarly. Ironically, the modern American accent is closer to the original English pronunciation than the modern British accent. The longest echo ever recorded in a man-made structure occurred in an old underground fuel depot in Scotland, built before World War II. When a blank shot was fired, the echo lasted for 112 seconds, more than a minute and a half of continuous reverberation. The largest bowling alley in the world is in Inazawa, Japan. It has 116 lanes spanning 650 feet, where up to 696 people can play simultaneously. Technically, the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar ordered the construction of a wooden bridge over the Rhine in just 10 days using advanced techniques for the period. He then crossed it with his army and stayed 18 days in Germanic territory without major engagements, and afterward destroyed the bridge when returning. This action was a display of power to deter future incursions. Although Scotland has the highest proportion of red-haired people by population at 13%, followed by Ireland with 10%, the country with the most redheads in absolute numbers is the United States, with between 7 and 20 million. The longest scientific name of an animal in Spanish is Parastratiosphecomia stratiosphecomioides, a species of fly discovered in Thailand. The name consists of 42 letters, comes from ancient Greek, and means resembling a soldier wasp fly. The first appearance of Cookie Monster was in a food commercial in 1966 that never aired. The difference was that he had sharp teeth, which were later removed when he debuted on Sesame Street in 1969. Lego used to reward employees who reached 25 years at the company with a 14-karat gold brick weighing nearly 1 ounce as a token of recognition. This exclusive golden brick was given only at certain factories and is considered a highly valuable collector's item today. The video game Balatro, which sold 1 million copies in 10 days, was created by a single developer named Local Thunk, who designed more than 100 Joker cards with effects that alter the game's rules. It was the most successful indie video game of 2024. The rap section in the Evanescence song Bring Me to Life was added by the record label, as it was fashionable at that time in the nu metal genre, even though singer Amy Lee did not want it. It is said they even approached Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park to record it, but he refused. Broccoli, parsley, Brussels sprouts, and red peppers contain more vitamin C per 3.5 ounces than oranges, despite the latter's reputation. But chili peppers surpass them all, containing up to 4 times more vitamin C than oranges. For a brief period of about a year and a half, Pablo Picasso could theoretically have met Snoop Dogg as a child. It did not actually happen, but it could have, and that makes it interesting. All elements heavier than iron, such as gold, silver, copper, nickel, and others, were formed during the explosion of a supernova at some point in a process called rapid neutron capture, where extreme conditions allow the creation of very heavy atomic nuclei. This means that part of your phone once existed inside a supernova. The oldest still functioning parliament is in Iceland, founded in the year 930. Its meetings originally included clan leaders to legislate and resolve disputes. It still convenes in the same original building. The quietest place in the world is the anechoic chamber at Microsoft's offices in Washington. The background noise in this room is so low that it approaches the mathematical threshold of absolute zero for sound, just before reaching the vacuum, which is the complete absence of sound. The holes in saltine crackers do not exist for aesthetic reasons. They are pricked before baking so that steam escapes in an orderly way, preventing the dough from bubbling up and inflating like bread. They also help distribute salt more evenly. The Iranian crown jewels are considered among the most valuable in the world. Their worth is so high that they have been used as backing for the value of the Iranian rial, serving as a financial reserve for the state. In the city of Pompeii, there were more than 200 takeaway restaurants, and most houses had no space to cook or eat. In many cities of ancient Rome, this kind of restaurant was fashionable. Deep-sea anglerfish use a luminous appendage to attract their prey. There is a significant size difference between males and females, with females being much larger. Because of this, the male must fuse parasitically with the female in order to reproduce. Musicians Pharrell, Lorde, Frank Ocean, and Billie Eilish have all mentioned at some point that they have synesthesia, a neurological condition in which stimulation of one sense automatically triggers another, allowing them to associate musical notes with colors, letters, and numbers, which can be a creative advantage. The actors who played Ferris's parents in Ferris Bueller's Day Off met on the movie set and later married in real life, though their marriage did not last long. They separated in 1992 after portraying the parents in the movie Sleepwalkers. The name of the Canary Islands does not come from birds, but from dogs. It derives from the Latin Canariae Insulae, meaning island of dogs, due to the large canines found there by a Roman expedition. However, it is believed they were actually referring to a large species of seal rather than dogs. Later, the local people named the birds canaries after the islands. Although the English words much and many have similar meanings, they are not etymologically related. Much comes from the Proto-Germanic word machilas, while many derives from the Latin word multum. Their resemblance is purely coincidental, showing how different languages can develop words with similar meanings but distinct origins. The 17th century French philosopher René Descartes, famous for the phrase "I think, therefore I am," believed that animals were not conscious beings and could not feel pain. He considered them soulless machines. This led him to conduct cruel experiments, which, even in that era, caused great controversy and were harshly criticized. There is an underwater post office in the South Pacific near the island of Vanuatu. It is the only underwater post office that exists. Vacationers who want to send a waterproof letter home can dive down to it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.